So thank you so much for coming and joining my session. I know we only have about 20 minutes, so I'm going to jump right into it. So the title of my talk is Working with Universities, 3 Things Analytics Managers Don't Know. So in my role at Kennesaw State University, I work in the Analytics and Data Science Institute, and we have at any given point in time probably a dozen or more relationships with organizations, primarily from across the metropolitan Atlanta area. And it's always amazing to me how far apart the chasm is between faculty and students and kind of what they're thinking about what it means to work with a private sector company and how private sector managers kind of think about working with universities. And so this talk is intended to hopefully help kind of close that chasm a little bit and maybe give some of you that are working in the private sector in particular some insights into how we think about analytics and data science in a university context, and help you better understand about some of the objectives and some of the things that we try to accomplish when we're working with organizations like yours, but also some of the benefits that you might not have even thought about in terms of working with universities. So let's go ahead and jump right in. So the first question that we see a lot is really just number one, where would I find analytics and data science within a university? And the answer is not clear. So unlike historical, well-established traditional academic disciplines like chemistry or biology or even marketing or English, where you would immediately know where to go within a university to find that discipline, analytics and data science is not quite as clear. And there's a lot of reasons for this. I mean, part of the reason is analytics and data science is still a fairly nascent discipline that's still trying to find its footing within the academic community. But more importantly, analytics and data science is really a discipline that has grown up through an intersection of multiple disciplines. So data science programs really rely on this intersection of mathematics and statistics and computer science with intersection with healthcare and finance and manufacturing and engineering. And so as a result, it's not always clear where you would necessarily find analytics and data science within a university. And so you can see my pie chart there. So some universities are housing these disciplines within the business school, and some of these programs are housing data science within like mathematics or statistics or computer science. Some are choosing to put data science in more of these interdisciplinary spaces, like in a center or an institute or the graduate college. And so it's not always clear necessarily where data science is housed, but I can tell you that none of these approaches are wrong. They're just different. And so when you think about data science, my first point for managers of private sector organizations is really to think about data science like tofu. So while the protein of tofu is the same, the flavors that tofu takes on based upon where it's kind of simmered are going to change slightly. And I think that parallel holds in an academic context. So when we talk about data science, we can see data science in the context of social sciences, or we can see data science in the context of marketing or finance or health policy, or we can see data science again housed in the College of Science or the College of Mathematics, and it's going to take on a slightly different flavor based upon where it's housed within a university. And so as you're working with universities, you'll find that universities are really taking one of two approaches to these concepts. So some universities will choose to treat data science as what I like to call a hub, meaning that students truly are studying the science of data. That data science is effectively like their major. This is their major field of study. And then they'll take electives, or they'll have concentrations or tracks in things like marketing and health policy and finance or manufacturing. And these become their areas of application. Alternatively, some universities are approaching data science or analytics as a spoke, meaning that the students major in something, right? So they're majoring in finance, or they're majoring in computer science, or they're majoring in marketing, and then they're picking up analytics or data science as a track. So they're majoring in finance, and then they pick up a couple courses in analytics, which is very different than the student that's majoring in data science and then picks up finance as a track. So typically, when you look at programs that have data science as the hub, those programs tend to be much more computational. So you're going to see much heavier emphasis on the programming and on the mathematics and potentially more on the theory, where they're picking up like finance as an application, versus the programs where the students are majoring in finance, and then they may pick up truly just an analytics course, which is typically very highly applied, might have more of a point and click type interface. That program is going to look very different. So again, neither of these approaches necessarily are right or wrong. They're not even necessarily better or worse. But I think as you're looking to potentially partner with a university, particularly in the context of analytics and data science, it's important to understand, are they treating data science and analytics as a hub, meaning that the students are studying the science of data and then they're picking up these other areas as areas of application, or are they studying something else and then they're just picking up one class in analytics? So that's kind of, I think, the first thing that program managers or managers of analytics organizations need to understand before they approach a university for potential partnership. And so, kind of thinking about why companies partner with universities, we find that it's really kind of one of three things. So when companies come to us and they want to collaborate, again, in the context of analytics and data science, we find that it's really for one of three reasons. Or maybe for all three reasons. It's because they're looking for a pipeline of talent. They're actually looking to bring in students after they graduate who can come in and fill those entry-level positions, or for students coming out of graduate programs who can come in and fill those mid-level positions. So they're looking for a consistent, dependable, known pipeline for talent. Secondarily, they're looking for alternative insights. They're looking for students and faculty, potentially doctoral students, to take a unique look at their data, take a unique look at their problems or their pain points, and give them additional insights, again, with primarily kind of a data science orientation or a data-centric focus. And then third, the third reason we see organizations reaching out to us is really just for community engagement. So they want to be more integrated with their local university in the context of being part of the local community, again, part of the tax base, part of the business community. So these are the three things that we find that organizations want from us when they reach out to us, again, in a data science context. And so that brings me to the second thing that I think managers of analytics organizations should think about when they're approaching a university. So, I talked about the fact that different universities kind of approach data science differently, in terms of hubs and spokes. But I can tell you every university in the country that is really serious about analytics and data science will offer something called a Capstone course. And some of you may have already been involved with some local universities in terms of being involved with Capstone courses. And Capstone courses are great. And so, again, some of you might have some familiarity with these. The idea is that a company will come in and they will sponsor the project for the analytics course. So again, all universities have this, particularly at the graduate level. And so, this semester we're doing a project with Coca-Cola North America. Previously, we've done projects with Spanx and Georgia Pacific, with the Home Depot, with Equifax. And the idea in these projects is that the company will come to us and they'll bring us their de-identified data, and they'll walk into the classroom and they'll say, here's our project, here is our data, here's 3 pain points that you need to be familiar with, and here's some things you need to know about our ecosystem and about our culture. And these Capstone project courses are great, and the students get an immense amount of benefit out of these courses. We, as academics, we can always go out and get Kaggle data or get public sector data and bring that into the classroom. But I tell you what, nothing replaces having managers, particularly of local organizations, come into the classroom and say, here's my data, here's some of my pain points, and here's 3 things you need to know about my organization. So these capstone courses are really mutually beneficial. Again, not only do our students get an immense amount of great kind of real world exposure to a data science initiative, a data science project, they get a great opportunity to engage in something where they've got real data and they can't flip to the back of the book and check the answer. But also companies use this as a great basis to create that pipeline of talent that I was talking about one of those three things that organizations are really looking for, because in the end, it kind of turns into a 15-week job interview. And I think most universities will probably tell you that this is a great opportunity to get to know the students in a program, and a great kind of test case to start interviewing students at a particular analytics data science program for potential positions within your organization. So the first point that I made that I think all managers of analytics organizations need to understand is how universities approach data science. Is it kind of a hub or is it a spoke? The second point is all universities do capstone courses, and they're great, but they're a lot of work, and you can see some of those points there. Here are some kind of best practices in terms of these capstone courses. You don't need for me to read each one of these, but I do want to highlight that third point there, because corporations that want to work with us always ask me, well, what kind of project should I be teeing up for your project course? And really the emphasis is that it has to be in the Goldilocks zone. It really needs to be not so simple that the students can just do it like any other homework assignment, but it also can't be so complicated that a group of graduate students can't reasonably complete the project within 15 weeks. And certainly the project course coordinator or a faculty member that's been involved in these courses could certainly give you some advice and some case studies on the types of projects and the types of questions that work well for these capstone courses. And a quick shout out to Keith Worley at Georgia Tech. These are some of his best practices that I think are probably true for all universities and all organizations. So again, just to reiterate the three things that we see that companies want from universities, I kind of addressed that talent pipeline. The next thing that I want to highlight is this concept of alternative insights. That organizations approach us all the time looking for alternative insights into their data, looking to collaborate with a university to say, hey, can you take another look at my data and see if you see anything here that we don't see? And so that brings me to this next point, which is really just all around research. The idea that private sector research grants are increasingly becoming a standard, especially in the analytics and data science space. And you can see some of the headlines there. The idea of private sector university collaboration to engage in meaningful, relevant research, relevant thought leadership that ultimately makes a difference in your operating space and would make a difference from the university's perspective in terms of the publication and the research that we're trying to get out in the academic ecosystem. So this is increasingly a really important point for universities, again, who are involved in the analytics and data science space. And so the third point that I wanted to make is related to that data science research labs can be a great way to partner with a university. So if you're a company and you've got a data-centric challenge, or you've got a particular initiative and you're looking for support, you're looking for a university to partner with, you can see my points there. So at our university at Kennesaw State, at any given point in time, we have 5, 10, sometimes 15 different research labs going simultaneously. And these research labs are primarily with the private sector. And so in the context of these research labs, an organization will come to us and they'll present us with their data, they'll present us with their research challenge, and then we will put together a research team that engages faculty, doctoral students, and sometimes master's students who will kind of live, eat, breathe, sleep this research question. And these are really helpful, I think, because they work outside of the cadence of the academic calendar. So the project course that I was talking about earlier, that has to move with the cadence of a traditional academic semester, but these research labs don't. So we can pop up a research lab in October and shut it down in February, or we can pop it up in October and shut it down 2 Octobers in the future, and it can run for multiple years, depending upon what the objectives of the lab are. And so the primary objective of these research labs is really all about research and alternative insights. But you can see my fourth checkpoint there. It can also be a pipeline of talent. So while doctoral students typically are not a big, broad pipeline of talent, typically within the context of these research labs, you'll have a faculty principal investigator, the faculty member that's the point person, and then you'll have some number of PhD students, and then underneath those PhD students, you'll have the master students. And oftentimes these research labs can almost function like an on-campus internship for these master students, where they're developing a facility with the data, they're developing a facility with the organization's, again, pain points and questions, research questions, and their culture, such that by the time they finish whatever the initiative is within the context of this research lab, they potentially are kind of that first tier of candidates for full-time positions. And you can see my final point there with these research labs. Intellectual property issues are not trivial, but we can almost always work through the intellectual property issues as long as there's a common understanding of the mutual objectives and what everybody's trying to get out of the initiative. So the 3 things that I have found working with analytics managers in the private sector that they don't think about necessarily when they are considering a partnership with the university is the first, that different universities house and approach data science differently. So some universities are thinking about data science as a hub or as a major, where the students then pick up areas of application. Some universities are approaching data science as a spoke, where the students are majoring in something else and then just picking up a couple analytics classes. Neither of those approaches are wrong, and they both could be fabulous, but you just need to understand, how is the university that you're going to be reaching out to thinking about data science, and where is it housed within the university? Because a machine learning class that's taught out of a program that's housed in the business school is going to look and feel very different than a machine learning class that's taught out of a college of computing or out of a department of statistics. So just be aware of that. How is the university that you're interested in working with, how are they approaching data science? The second point is that capstone projects are great. Capstone courses are amazing, and our students get a lot of benefit out of it, but they do take a lot of work. And so, it's not a situation where we set up the course and you give us the data and you walk away, and 15 weeks later, the students just come up with a solution. Capstone courses require mutual engagement. And so certainly within the context of our capstone courses, the project sponsor typically meets with the student at least once a month, and sometimes even more frequently than that. But it does take a lot of engagement, but I think both parties typically will get the benefit out of it. And then the third point that a lot of analytics managers may not think about is the idea of research labs, the idea of partnering with a university for the purposes of co-developing research or collaborating on patents and innovation and intellectual property. Again, this takes a commitment. It takes commitment on both sides. It takes an investment of resources. It takes an investment of funds, and it certainly takes an investment of time. But again, certainly from what we've seen, these research labs can be incredibly mutually beneficial. So I'm going to stop sharing my slides and kind of click back over for a minute. I know we only have 20 minutes, and I know that tends to go very fast, but I'm going to flip back over to the chat and see if anybody has any specific questions. So thank you for acknowledging the tofu analogy. I think that works well. I always like to say that if data science was going to have a mascot, it would be a platypus. Because it sort of is this multi-dimensional creature that has a bill and it has webbed feet, but it's a mammal and it lays eggs. So there's a lot of different dimensions here to data science. So, again, 20 minutes goes very fast. So I think I'm up against time. I would like to say that if anybody wants to reach out to me personally, I'll put my email address here in the chat. And I would just reiterate that universities and private sector companies have such a great opportunity to work together. It really can be mutually beneficial. At the end of the day, in the context of data science, we can't teach the students, we can't do what we do without you guys. And so I think that brings us to time. Again, I've put my email address in the chat, and please feel free to reach out to me if you have any follow-up questions. So thanks so much, and enjoy the rest of the conference.